Gabriella Vaughn checked into the Regal Heights Hotel with nothing but a scuffed suitcase, a throbbing headache, and a half-baked plan to restart her life. If she'd looked up for even a second in the lobby, she might have caught the stormy gray eyes watching her from across the marble floor eyes that belonged to the man who'd soon flip her entire world upside down. But she didn't. She was too busy telling the concierge, "I don't care about the view. Just the cheapest suite that doesn't smell like mold, please." Her voice cracked halfway through. She hadn't meant to sound so desperate, but it had been a long week. She'd left everything behind: her job, her apartment, her ex-fiancé who cheated on her with their wedding planner, and hopped on a plane to New York City with a credit card she probably shouldn't be using. "Miss Vaughn," the concierge gave her an apologetic smile. "You've been upgraded, complimentary." "Penthouse floor," Gabriella blinked. "What? No, I didn't. There must be a mistake." "No mistake," the man said, tapping his screen. "It's been taken care of. Enjoy your stay." Behind her, the man in the charcoal suit stood up from his leather chair and walked toward the elevator. Gabriella didn't know it yet, but he had seen her the second she walked in. He'd been reading reports on his tablet, waiting for his car to take him to a meeting downtown, when her voice cut through the air, low, tired, unfiltered. Different. He should have looked away. Instead, he told his driver to wait. The penthouse suite looked like something out of a movie. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows, sweeping views of the skyline, a king-sized bed with sheets so white they looked illegal to touch. Gabriella stood frozen with her suitcase half-zipped. She didn't belong here. She was a small-town girl from Michigan who'd worked double shifts at a bakery for the past 2 years, not some VIP who got upgraded to a suite that probably cost more per night than her car was worth. She was about to call the front desk to fix the mistake when a knock echoed through the room. She opened the door a crack, her voice cautious. "Yes, room service," a deep voice replied. "I didn't order anything, it's complimentary." She opened the door farther. The man standing there didn't look like hotel staff. He wore a navy coat, black dress shirt, and held a silver tray with a bottle of champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. His face was sharp-jawed, his hair dark and slightly tousled, like he'd run his hands through it a few too many times. He looked too powerful, too calm, too expensive. She stared. "Are you delivering this yourself?" He didn't blink. "Maybe I don't trust anyone else to get it right." She narrowed her eyes. "Are you hitting on me with strawberries?" He laughed. "No, I just thought you could use something sweet." "You looked like you had a long day." Gabriella crossed her arms, cautious. "Do you work here?" "No." He stepped inside without asking. "But I own the place." She stared again. "You, what?" He set the tray down on the glass table, then extended a hand. "Vincent Grayson, CEO of Grayson International. I own the Regal Heights Hotel." She didn't take his hand. "You're messing with me?" "I'm not." "Right, and I'm the Queen of England," he smiled. "Then I hope you enjoy your stay, Your Majesty." The next morning, Gabriella tried to avoid him. She wasn't stupid. Men like him didn't notice women like her. Not really. But when the elevator doors opened in the lobby, there he was again, talking to someone on the phone, dressed in a black suit with his tie pulled loose like he'd already conquered the day. She tried to slip past. He caught her anyway. "Gabriella," he said, stepping in front of her. "Do you stalk all your guests or just the ones who don't belong in your penthouse?" He laughed. "You belong there more than half the people who check in here." "Is that supposed to be a compliment?" "It's supposed to be the truth." "Why me?" she asked, folding her arms. "Because you didn't look at me like I was anyone special," he said honestly. "And that hasn't happened in a long time." She didn't know what to say. He stepped closer. "Have dinner with me," she blinked. "You're serious?" "Very. I don't even know you." "Then let me fix that." She hesitated. "I don't date hotel owners." "Good thing I'm more than that." She shook her head, still skeptical. "Do you always invite random women to dinner?" "No," he said simply. "Just you?" Dinner was at a rooftop restaurant she didn't know existed, private, candlelit, and so quiet it felt like the city had disappeared. A server brought her a wine menu without prices. Gabriella stared at it like it was written in code. I don't know what any of this means, she admitted. Vincent leaned forward. Then don't pick, I already ordered. She raised an eyebrow. Confident, aren't you? No, he said, his eyes locked on her. Just sure of what I want. And for the next 2 hours he listened to her talk. She told him about her ex, how she caught him kissing someone else during their cake-tasting appointment. She told him about her bakery job, her love for music, her dreams that had been shelved so long they'd gathered dust. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fix anything. He just listened. And then he told her something too. My mother was a waitress, he said quietly. She raised me alone. I know what it's like to fight for everything. Gabriella stared at him, the expensive wine forgotten. Why are you telling me this? Because you look at me like I'm a man. Not a bank account. She didn't know what to say, so he reached across the table and took her hand. I don't want this to be one night, he said. I want to see you again. She swallowed hard. You don't even know me. I know I want to, he said softly, and somehow that was enough. Back at the hotel, he walked her to the elevator without letting go of her hand. She turned to him just before the doors opened. I still don't get why you're doing this, she said. Because something about you feels real, he said. And I've had enough fake to last a lifetime. She looked into his eyes, those stormy gray eyes that had watched her from across the lobby just 2 days ago. And then, without thinking, she kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in weeks, Gabriella felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't completely lost after all. Rain splattered against the penthouse windows as Gabriella sat curled up on the edge of the velvet chaise. Her knees pulled to her chest, hair still damp from the downpour that had caught her on her walk back from the nearby bodega. The soft hum of the city buzzed below, distant and muted beneath the storm. She wasn't used to quiet like this. Not the kind that felt intentional, like the world was holding its breath. She hadn't heard from Vincent since the rooftop dinner 3 nights ago. Not a call, not a knock on the door. Nothing. Gabriella didn't know why she cared so much. He was a billionaire. She was a runaway. Whatever strange magnetic thing had sparked between them was probably just the thrill of opposites colliding. Still, when she heard a single knock at the suite door, her heart jumped without permission. When she opened it, he stood there, soaked collar unfastened, hair wet and eyes darker than she remembered. I've been downtown for 3 days, he said without preamble. The hotel board called an emergency meeting. I didn't want to leave without telling you. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed tightly. You could have said something. I didn't think you'd still be here. You upgraded me to the most expensive room in the building. Where else did you think I could go? He stepped closer, water dripping from his cuffs. I don't want you to think I'm the type to disappear. I don't know what type you are, she said. You say things like you want to see me again, then vanish. I didn't plan it like that. Of course not. You've got a company to run. I'm just the charity case who wandered in from a storm. His expression didn't shift. Is that really what you think you are to me? She didn't answer. I left a boardroom to come back, he said. And I never walk out of boardrooms. You say that like it's supposed to impress me. No, he said plainly. I say it because I don't do anything lightly, especially not this. She hesitated, something between vulnerability and defiance flickering in her. Why come back at all? He studied her for a long moment before speaking. Because I kept thinking about the way you look when you're about to cry but don't let yourself, and how you told me your dreams are still alive, they're just buried. That cracked something wide open. She stepped aside without a word. He entered, trailing cold air and the sharp scent of rain. She moved toward the window, watching the lights flicker across the skyline. I had an offer yesterday, she said quietly. An old friend from culinary school lives here. Her bakery's looking for a second pair of hands. It's small, but they're expanding. That's good. I haven't accepted yet. He stepped behind her but didn't touch her. What's stopping you? She turned to face him. I don't know if I'm building something here or just hiding in a prettier place. You're not hiding, he said. You're starting over. Just because it's wrapped in glass and gold doesn't mean it's not real. She gave a small, uncertain laugh. You talk like you know what starting over feels like. I do, he said. After my father died, I inherited a company that was bleeding money. I was 23 and terrified. Everyone expected me to fail. And did you? Almost, until I stopped trying to be him. He met her eyes. Don't try to be the version of yourself that fits other people's comfort. That's not you, she swallowed, throat tight. You're not what I expected, Vincent. I hope that's a good thing, she nodded slowly. It is. The silence between them shifted, no longer tense but charged. He walked toward the bar cart in the corner, selecting 2 glasses. Can I tempt you with something stronger than rainwater? She smiled faintly. Only if you're drinking too. He poured bourbon into both glasses and handed her one. They sat across from each other on the oversized couch, the storm giving way outside to a pale silver haze. I didn't think you'd want this, she said after a while. All of it. Me, I don't come from money. I don't have a trust fund or a famous name. I don't care about those things. Then what do you care about? He leaned forward, voice low. I care that when you laugh, you throw your head back like you haven't done it in years. I care that you told me the truth, even when it made you look broken. And I care that being around you makes everything else feel less heavy. Her fingers tightened around the glass. But I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything, he continued. That upgrade, the dinner, none of that was for leverage. It was just me trying to give you a moment of peace. Gabriella stared down at the amber liquid in her glass. Then why does it feel like this could slip away the second I start to believe in it? Because maybe for the first time it's something worth losing. That pulled a breath from her chest. He stood, gathering his coat. I have to go, but I'll be back tomorrow. Unless you tell me not to come. She didn't move. You're not afraid I'll vanish. I'm afraid you'll think you should. She walked him to the door, her hand catching his sleeve as he turned to leave. Don't be late, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I won't. Once the door closed, Gabriella pressed her forehead to the wood. A different kind of ache bloomed in her chest, one that felt like longing and hope stitched together. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time since arriving, she didn't feel like she was running anymore. She felt like she was about to choose something. Or someone. The scent of wood smoke and roasted sage clung to the air. As Gabriella stepped into the private lounge Vincent had reserved for them at the exclusive Montelier Club, an invitation only haven tucked behind iron gates in the West Village. She had almost turned back outside twice, her nerves clawing at her throat like ivy. But when she caught sight of him standing by the fire, sleeves rolled, collar open, swirling a glass of something dark in his hand, it was like gravity tipped toward him. Did you really rent out the entire lounge? She asked, pulling her coat tighter. Vincent looked up slowly. There was a wait list. I bought the membership instead, she blinked. That's not how that works. It is when the club's owner owes you 3 favors. She stepped forward warily. People owe you favors like that? I don't collect most of them. But tonight I wanted quiet, and you. Gabriella's throat went dry. She looked past him to the floor-length windows where the storm had cleared and dusk settled in lavender hues across the skyline. I still don't know what to do with you. That's fine, he said, setting his drink down. Just don't run from me. I don't run, she said, stepping closer. I disappear. There's a difference. He nodded once, like he understood more than he let on. They sat across from each other near the fire, the plush armchairs angled just so. A waiter brought them 2 plates black truffle risotto for her, seared duck with blood orange glaze for him, then disappeared without a word. Gabriella poked at her food. You know, I lied the first night we met. Vincent didn't look surprised. About what? I said I didn't care about the view, but I do. I used to stare at pictures of this skyline on my phone after shifts. I used to imagine what it would feel like to matter in a city like this. He tilted his head. And now that you're here, I'm realizing it's not about mattering to the city, it's about mattering to someone in it. He sat back, watching her carefully. You're not used to anyone seeing you, are you? I'm used to being convenient or invisible, nothing in between. He reached for his glass. You're neither. I'm not asking you to fix me, Vincent. I don't want to fix you, he said. I want to know you without trimming the edges, her breath caught. After a pause, he asked, what did you want to be before everything got complicated? She smiled faintly. A composer. Not just some girl who sings at weddings or writes jingles for bakery ads. I wanted to score films. Build soundtracks that make people feel something. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then why aren't you doing that? Because I never had time to figure out what made me worth listening to. Do you really think you're not? She looked away. I think I've spent more time surviving than living. Vincent was silent for a long moment. Then he stood, walked to the cabinet beside the fireplace, and returned with a slim black folder. He placed it in her lap. What's this? An invitation, he said. Tomorrow night. There's a private showcase at the Lincoln Conservatory. They're scouting new composers for an upcoming project. I made a call. She stared at him. You scheduled a meeting for me. No, I gave them your demo, the one you left on your phone. Her heart stuttered. You went through my music. You played it for me that night in the suite, I remembered. Gabriella looked down at the folder like it might burn her fingers. You've done too much. I can't keep accepting this. I'm not buying you, he said. I'm investing in the version of you that's been buried under everyone else's expectations. She looked up at him, something trembling in her chest. I don't want to be your project. You're not, he said quietly. You're the first thing I've done that feels honest. Suddenly, the air between them shifted. The heat wasn't just from the fire anymore. He reached across the small table and brushed his fingers against hers. Come tomorrow night, play for them. If it doesn't work out, fine. But don't say no because you're scared. She didn't answer, not with words. Instead, she stood slowly, walked toward him, and pressed her hands against his chest. I don't know how to be the girl you deserve. I'm not asking for perfect, he said. I'm asking for real. And then she kissed him slow, certain, nothing like the first time. This one wasn't impulsive. This one was a choice. When they broke apart, her voice was hoarse. If I fall for you, I'll catch you, he said. Gabriella didn't sleep that night. She sat at the grand piano in the corner of the suite, the one Vincent had someone deliver hours after their second dinner together. She hadn't touched it until now. Her fingers traced the keys like old friends. Notes rose into the quiet, tentative at first, then stronger. She played until the sky turned pale. Tomorrow, she would walk into that conservatory not as a girl running from her past, but as someone who might finally be ready to claim a future. And for the first time in years, Gabriella Vaughn wasn't afraid of being seen. Gabriella stood backstage at the Lincoln Conservatory, gripping the edge of the music stand like it might anchor her to the ground. Her sheet music fluttered slightly in her hands, the air from the vents above cool against her neck. Beyond the heavy velvet curtain, she could hear the low murmur of the audience, composers, producers, and critics. People with ears trained to recognize brilliance or dismiss it in seconds. She wasn't dressed like the others. No floor-length gowns or sleek black ensembles. Just a navy blouse and tailored trousers she'd borrowed from Vincent's stylist that morning. Still, she felt more herself than she had in years. A staff member stepped beside her and gave a small nod. You're next. She took a breath. Not a deep one, those still caught in her lungs, but enough to step forward. As she crossed the stage, the lights found her. She blinked once, then walked to the piano at the center and sat. No introduction, no words, just silence. Her fingers hovered over the keys. She began. The first note was tentative, but the second wasn't. She let the melody guide her, the rhythm unfolding like a story she hadn't realized she'd been writing her whole life. Every crescendo, every pause, it was a piece of her. Not the broken girl who'd fled a failed engagement, not the baker who'd buried her talent beneath exhaustion, but the composer who had something to say. When the final note faded, the silence felt like its own kind of applause. And then it came, real, thunderous applause. She didn't look up. Not right away. Instead, she stood, bowed once, and walked off stage with her heart pounding in her ears. Backstage, Vincent was already waiting. His jacket was gone, sleeves rolled, his expression unreadable until she reached him. You didn't tell me you were going to play something new, he said. I wrote it last night. You didn't miss a single measure. I didn't want to. He stepped closer, watching her carefully. They're going to call you. I don't know if I care if they do. He raised an eyebrow. That doesn't sound like the woman who just made an entire room forget how to blink. I just wanted to prove to myself I could do it, she said. That I wasn't some discarded version of who I used to be. Vincent looked at her for a long moment, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small, a key. She stared at it. What's that? My place, he said. It's yours if you want it, her breath caught. You're giving me your apartment. I'm offering you a choice. You don't have to live in a hotel suite or bounce between borrowed places. You can have something that's yours. No strings, no expectations, she blinked. Why would you do that? Because I'm in love with you, he said plainly. And it's not about what you do or where you stay. It's about how every second I'm not with you feels like it's being wasted. Gabriella didn't answer, her hands trembled, but her gaze didn't waver. I don't want to be a chapter in your story, Vincent, she said. I want to be part of the whole thing. Then stay, he said. Not because I asked, because you want to. She stepped forward, took the key, and slipped it into her pocket. I'll stay, she said, but not because I need saving. Because I finally believe I don't have to save myself alone. He reached for her hand, and this time it wasn't a question. Later that week, Gabriella moved into Vincent's penthouse. Not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. The first thing she did was place her sheet music on the white marble piano he'd had delivered to the sunlit corner of the living room. The second thing she did was change the locks, not because she didn't trust him, but because he insisted it was her home now and she should choose who had access to it. That Saturday, they hosted a small dinner for a few of Vincent's closest friends, people Gabriella had never met, but who welcomed her like they'd known her for years. She wore a soft blue dress that made her feel like herself, not someone trying to impress anyone. Vincent never left her side, his hand brushing hers under the table, his gaze always finding hers. After the guests left, she turned to him on the balcony, the wind sweeping hair from her shoulders. You still surprise me, she said. I hope I never stop. I thought I came to New York to escape. You didn't, he said. You came to become. She leaned against him, her head resting on his chest. I love you, she whispered. He didn't hesitate. I've been waiting to hear that since the moment you insulted my strawberries. She laughed against him, her heart full. On Monday, she received an offer from the conservatory, an official invitation to compose a full score for a short film. She accepted. But before she signed the papers, she composed something else, a piece for him. She didn't name it. She didn't have to. The first time he heard it, he didn't speak. He just pulled her into his arms and held her like she was both the beginning and the ending of every story he had ever wanted to live. And this time, neither of them let go. Gabriella stood barefoot in the sun-drenched kitchen of the penthouse, humming softly as she rolled out dough on the marble island. A thin layer of flour dusted the counter, her wrists, even the tip of her nose. The scent of vanilla and lemon zest swirled around her. A tray of pastries cooled by the window, and across the room, a record played low, a string arrangement she'd started composing the week before. Vincent leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching her with quiet intensity. You're doing it again, he said. She didn't look up. What? Turning this place into something that feels like home. She glanced at him then, lips curving. Didn't you say it already was? I did, but I didn't expect it to smell like fresh tarts and sound like a symphony. She brushed her hands against a dish towel, walking over to him. You don't mind? I'd let you repaint the walls if it meant hearing you sing in the mornings. Her smile faltered for a beat, something more serious flickering behind her eyes. I got a call today, he straightened. From the conservatory? No. From my mother, he waited, letting her take her time. She found out I'm here. Someone from back home saw an article about the showcase and sent it to her. She wanted to know if I was planning to come back for good. Vincent didn't speak. Gabriella met his gaze. I told her no. I said I found something here I never thought I would. He stepped forward. And what was that? Myself. And you, he reached for her, fingers brushing her waist. You're not afraid she'll be upset. She already is. But that's not my burden anymore. His jaw relaxed slightly, like tension he hadn't admitted to was finally releasing. She asked if I was safe, Gabriella added. I told her yes. I told her I've never felt safer. He cupped her cheek, his thumb tracing the edge of her jaw. You make me want things I never thought I needed, like tart dough and string quartets, like mornings that don't feel empty, like coming home to someone who sees past everything with my name on it. She leaned into him. I don't care about any of that, Vincent. I never did. I know, he said. That's why it means more. Later that evening, they attended a gala at the Metropolitan Museum, an event Vincent had initially planned to skip until Gabriella insisted they go. She wore an emerald dress that fell in soft waves to the floor, her hair swept up in a way that made her look like a painting. Vincent slipped a sapphire pendant around her neck before they left, not saying a word when her eyes shimmered with sudden emotion. At the gala, she was no longer his date from nowhere. She was introduced as Gabriella Vaughn, composer, not an accessory, not a mystery, a name in her own right. They danced once near the end of the night after most of the photographers had drifted away. The music slowed and he pulled her close, hand at her waist, their foreheads nearly touching. I used to think love was a distraction, Vincent said quietly. Something that dulled ambition. And now I know it's the only thing that sharpens what matters. She rested her head against his shoulder. I didn't think I'd ever want this again, after everything. You don't have to want what you had. This is something new, he was right. This wasn't a repeat of a broken past. This was hers built with choices she made, not ones forced on her. 3 weeks later, Vincent took her to an empty rooftop in Tribeca. It was dusk, and the city glowed behind them while string lights hung between wooden beams above a candlelit table set for two. This building isn't finished yet, she said, glancing around. It will be by winter, he replied. But I claimed the rooftop first. For what? For this. He pulled something from his coat pocket, a small box matte black with a velvet lining. She froze. I wasn't planning to ask you yet, he said, not this soon. But I realized something. There's no right time to ask for forever when every day with you already feels like it. She stared at the ring. Platinum, a single pear-shaped diamond flanked by 2 tiny stones. Elegant, thoughtful, nothing overdone. I don't want to rush you, he said. But I can't imagine building anything this rooftop, this life without you in it. Her answer wasn't a word. It was the way she reached for his face, pulled him to her, and kissed him like she'd been waiting her whole life to find someone she didn't have to run from. Yes, she said against his lips. God, yes. They didn't rush the wedding. It happened quietly 6 months later at a converted greenhouse in upstate New York, surrounded by wildflowers and only 20 guests. He wore navy, she wore ivory. There were no media, no announcements, no headlines. Just them and music. She walked down the aisle to a piece she wrote herself, something soft, layered, and full of hope. Vincent didn't cry, but his hands trembled when he took hers. I never believed in fate, he whispered as they faced each other. Me neither, she replied. But I believe in us. After the ceremony, they disappeared to a private estate near the coast, where no one knew their names and the only sound at night was the ocean curling against the rocks. Gabriella brought her keyboard. Vincent brought nothing but time. He cooked. She played. They danced barefoot on the deck until sunrise. And when they returned to the city, it wasn't as 2 people trying to fit into each other's lives. It was as one life shared, chosen, and fiercely protected. Gabriella's music was picked up by an independent film studio. She signed a contract on her own terms with her own lawyer, and turned down offers that didn't feel right, even the lucrative ones. Vincent never pushed. He simply waited at the end of each day with dinner half made and a glass of wine poured. Sometimes she still wondered what would have happened if she hadn't walked into that hotel lobby. If she'd taken a different flight, a different room, a different path. But then she'd look over at him, reading beside her in bed, his hand resting on her knee like it belonged there, and she'd stop wondering. Because some stories didn't need rewrites, they just needed the right beginning. And hers began the moment she stopped running and finally let herself be found.